occasion, and this is the last campaign episode of the season, which is crazy. It's been a long journey, but we've still got a few things to talk about. So the series will go on a bit longer, filling out sort of, you know, things about the Empire, up until Total War 2 comes out, I think. I'm also hoping to do some stuff before Total War Warhammer 2, to, you know, sort of cover, you know, some of the basics, probably. I might try and do some more of the Elven History series that I started ages ago. That has been a very slow series, hasn't it? 2 episodes in like 6 months. But, you know, I'm going to carry it on. So, you know, give a bit of background. Because I want to focus on sort of life in those places when I do the campaign lore plays for Total War 2. Total War Warhammer 2, rather. So, yeah, anyway, so this episode we're going to talk about Ostermark, which is the last province that we need to talk about. I do still want to talk about Talabheim, because I spoke about Talabheim, but not a lot about Talabheim, and I have a lot of resources for that, so, you know, it's a big city as well, so I do want to cover that, so that'll be in another episode later. So, I've waffled on enough, but, guys, last episode, isn't that cool? So, anyway, so let's talk about Ostermark. So, the official name is actually the League of Ostermark, and it's ruled by the Elect Count Wolfram Hertwig, Chancellor of the League of Ostermark, Prince of Beckhafen. So that's pretty cool. You know, fun title. Not my favourite, but it's a good one. It's a good one. And one thing that's quite novel, I think, is this is one place. There are no chartered free towns. Most provinces do have the odd one that is sort of, you know, sort of paid for their own sort of government. But you know, they just sort of pay a fee, you know, to the Elect Count to sort of run independently. In Ostmark, there are no such towns, which I think is quite novel. It's, you know, one province that actually has control over the entire province. I'm not sure any others do, actually. So that's kind of novel. So anyway, so the land. Ostmark is in the far east of the Empire, where the Emperor's writ stops at the boundaries of Wild Kislev and the kingdoms of the dwarfs in the World's Edge Mountains. It is a sombre, bleak land of vast moors between 2 arms of the Great Forest. Snowfalls blanket the land in winter, while the spring thaw turns most of the roads into muddy quagmires. Even in summer, the sunlight seems to have a weakened, tentative quality to it, as if it's not sure if it belongs there. Ostermark is divided into 4 main regions. In the north, there is the arm of the Great Forest known locally as the Griffin's Wood, that follows the line of the Upper Talabek, and contains the capital, Beckhafen. In the south, along the banks of the Ster, the expanse of the Great Forest near Essen, when spoken of at all, is referred to as the Deadwood, for the dead city of Mordheim lies in its midst. Between these 2 arms, but south of the Brandwasser River, are the Central Moorlands, a vast expanse of low hills, fenlands, and shallow lakes that is sparsely inhabited, save for the herds of sheep and some scattered villages. North of the Brunwasser, between the World's Edge Mountains and the end of the Griffin's Wood, are large tracts of rolling grasslands, well suited to raising horses. These lands have often been fought over by the Ostermarkers and their Kislevite neighbours. The Griffin's Wood around Beckhafen has long since been the centre of Ostermark's political and economic life, especially since the destruction of the old capital at Mordheim in 1999 of the Imperial calendar. It's probably the Y2K that got it. The region's main exports are lumber and riverboats, the latter often built on the spot from some of the trees harvested that season. The logs float downriver from as far as Fortenhof and Riemer to Beckhafen, where skilled boatwrights build craft that are considered among the best in the Empire. Not as dangerous as other forested areas, the Griffin's Wood is home to many small villages and isolated steads, whilst ruins of older villages and even small towns lie deep within it. Since the war began, the eastern end of the Griffin's Wood below Fortenhof has become home to Kislevite refugees fleeing the devastation of their lands. Outlawry and river piracy have become a problem there, and the government in Beckhafen is considering sending a force to aid the Margrave Roentgen.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Roentgen. In restoring order. Ostermarkers largely avoid the Deadwood in the south. Traffic between Krugenheim in Talabekland and Essen, or Karakadrin, in the mountains beyond either travels along the Ster or takes a roundabout route through the bleak moors. The woods have had a frightening reputation ever since Mordheim's destruction. None live there, and few willingly enter it. Locals swear that they can hear screams coming from the wood at night, and that any who enter it will come back mad and mutated, if they come back at all. Some blame the anger of the gods, others the weird powers of the stone that fell from the sky that legendary night. But whatever the reason, nothing natural lives within these woods. Now, sorry to interrupt, but I'm about to hear a speech, so let's hear the speech.
With me, followers, we will descend into Drake-Tooth Hollow, this cave of ill aspect, for within lies an artifact of great power. My arcane talents tell me this place is not unprotected. An ancient, once-dead guardian lies in wait. We must destroy it before we can collect the cave's secrets. You will do this for me. This is a dread task, but my rewards will be great, for I can spin gold from lead. And as the Supreme Patriarch, is there a more powerful ally you can have? Begin your advance. Banish the guardians of this place, and think of the rewards you will have once the cloak of molten metal is mine!
So that's right, I did bring you a battle for the end, you know, for the last episode, because it had to be a good battle, right? And quest battles are always fun. I didn't want to leave it on just, you know, fighting a single injured Chaos Lord, you know, just be a bit boring. So, yeah, so I managed to bring you guys a nice battle, so that's fun. So, I hope you guys enjoy it. So, anyway, back onto Ostermark. So, we're talking about the Deadwood, and I'll continue. Sometimes a thing escapes from the woods and goes on a rampage amongst the farms and villages, until at last the frightened people hunt it down and kill it, burning the body on the spot. A particularly horrible incident occurred in Essen last year, when a band of 5 mutants broke through the town gates and went on a rampage, killing over a dozen before being slain themselves. On examination, locals recognised them as a band of adventurers who had entered the forest the year before seeking treasure and had not been heard from again until that night. The Bleak Moors occupy the central portion of the province and include the Erie Downs to the south. Both areas are thinly occupied, the towns and villages mostly clinging to the rivers. Within the moors, sheep herding is common, though there are small herds of dairy cattle too. Isolated farms and cottages are scattered across the landscape, the herdsmen and crofters living in them preferring their solitude and coming to town sometimes not even once a year. The Erie Downs is a special case, physically much like the Bleak Moors, but with a much weirder reputation. Close to the border of Sylvania, somewhere within the Downs, reputedly lies the location of the great battle against the vampire counts of Sylvania. The vampire counts' forces won, and total slaughter ensued. The legend says that whilst the bodies were raised to serve in the count's armies, the souls were left behind, abandoned without hope of more's comfort. To this day, deep in the Downs, those who enter may see floating lights, which are the souls of those who died there. They try to trick travellers and lead them to their deaths, so they can steal their bodies and live again. The spirits of those whose bodies are stolen this way then join the lost souls of the Erie Downs. The Veldt is a name given to the grasslands of the northeast, great rolling plains between the Griffin's Wood and the World's Edge Mountains. Here, Ostermarkers raise herds of horses, the owners of each distinguished by their brands. Ostermarker horses are famous for their size and strength, and buyers come from afar to the horse market at Heffingen to add them to their stables. Under pressure from Kieslevite refugees trying to settle in the Veldt, there are moves underway to convince Chancellor Hertwig and the Ostermark Council to expel them back to their own lands. So let's talk about the people of Ostermark, shall we? So Ostermark has long been an avenue for conquest, whether by invaders attacking the Empire or Imperial armies on the march to Kislev. Originally settled by a minor tribe named the Ostergoths, orcs, goblins and trolls frequently raided Ostermark in the days before Sigmar founded the Empire. Stout defenders of their homes and fortified villages, the Ostrogoths learned to value cooperation between the clans, realizing that they were stronger together than apart. This made them open to Sigmar's call for unity, and the Ostrogoths contributed a mighty force of axemen to the army that fought at Blackfire Pass. The battle over, their leader Adelhard accepted the title of Elector Count with a laugh, remarking to Sigmar that theirs was a victory foreseen in the stars. This banter is still recalled in the heraldry of the province, the star and the crowned griffin victorious. Adelhard and his men took wives and mistresses from among the people of Aberland, Stirland, and Talabecland upon their march home. These women were the first of many new bloodlines to come into the region, now named Ostermark, or the Eastern March. For its presence in the frontier, to this mixture were added Ungol elements during the invasions of the mid-18th century, bringing a horse-raising culture to Ostermark's Veldt region. Kislevites would cross the border too, though more as settlers than conquerors, fleeing the cruelties of the Tsar or natural disasters such as famine or drought. All these elements blended to form a people who, while still recognisably imperial in culture and language, showed distinct differences from their more western cousins. Ostermarkers tend to be stout and thick-set, and their eyes often reveal an eastern heritage brought by the Ungols long ago. Their men are given to wearing long, thick moustaches rather than beards, and a high-peaked fur hat replaces the more fashionable floppy headgear found elsewhere in the Empire. Women wear their hair loose if single, or in a long braid wound up their back if wound up the back of the head if married. Because of the cold weather, Ostermarkers tend to wear several layers of clothing in a style that seems quaint or old-fashioned to others in the Empire. At their best, Ostermarkers are vibrant souls, with a love of life, horses, vodka, and dancing. So there you go, guys, it's confirmed. Vodka does exist in Warhammer. Their women in particular are known for their quick tempers and passionate nature. More than one Reiklander dandy has been dumped semi-naked on the Veldt after attempting to seduce a maid of Ostermark, often by the maid herself. Few Empire folk naturally think of this side of the Ostermark nature, however. Most claim that Ostermarkers are half Kislevite, half peasant, and entirely morose. Famed for long drinking binges, elaborate funerals, and combinations of the two, many people fear to ask an Ostlander how their day has been, for fear of a depressing monologue. At their worst, Ostermarkers show an almost theatrical obsession with death and its trappings. Women seldom remarry once widowed, for no Ostermark husband would stay in Mor's realm knowing another man was with his wife. Fear of hauntings makes exorcists and priests of Mor very welcome throughout Ostermark, whilst carpenters are very much in demand to carve the elaborate coffins that are so common in this province. To an Ostermarker, this tradition of flamboyant despair is natural. Coming from a province that is regularly raided, destroyed, and plundered, they understand that death is a common part of life. The people of the League honour all the gods, but hold Ulrich, Mor, Sigmar, and Tal and Raya in highest regard. The stone circles of the Old Faith were long ago taken over by Tal's priests, and Berkafen is the site of the largest Sigmarite temple in the east. Now that Archaon's forces have sacked Wolfenburg, it is to hear that the Sigmarite Lector of Wolfenburg fled when the city fell, though some say behind his back that he should have died at his post. Ostermarkers have good relations with the dwarfs of Carrick Cadrin, both because of their shared regard for Sigmar and the mutual threat they face from Sylvania, and most recently the invasion of Archaon's Lieutenant Crom through Peak Pass. Chancellor Hertwig has mustered the Ostermark army at Eisenstahl to meet this threat, but though rumours have come of the defeat of King Ungrim, there has been no sign of Crom's army. Like the folk of Ostland, Ostermarkers have Kislevite tones to their speech. They speak Reichspiel with a distinct accent, the vowels heavily rounded, the th sounds rendered almost as d, something often used to make Ostlanders the butt of many jokes. Unlike Ostlanders, they have a musical, make Ostermarkers the butt of many jokes. Unlike Ostlanders, they have a musical quality to their language. Archaic words forgotten by the rest of the Empire are in frequent use, as are borrowed Kislevite terms. The accent is easy to imitate, as it is so distinct, and is frequently used by drunken nobles as a comedy party piece. So, now on to their significant places. Berkafen we'll start with. So, situated on the south bank of the upper Talabek, Berkafen is a compact city crowded behind its defensive walls. Buildings are narrow and tall, and lean at dizzying angles over alleys that are more like darkened tunnels. Built from the dark wood of the Great Forest, Berkafen structures have a gloomy look that no amount of whitewash and coloured trim can dispel. Berkafen is the capital of Ostermark, and has been since the destruction of Mordheim in the year 2000 of the Imperial calendar, which is odd because it did say that it was 1999 earlier in this book. Oh well. The princes of Bekarfen, the Hertwig family, have traditionally held the Chancellor's post since then, in recognition of their service in the aftermath of the disaster. Though the position is hereditary, it must be confirmed by unanimous vote of the other council members. By decree of the Emperor, the Chancellor is also named Elector Count of Ostermark. Bekarfen is famous for its boat yards, where some of the finest rivercraft in the Empire are made. There are also 2 water-powered sawmills here, a gift of the King of Carrick-Cadrin. These turn the logs brought downriver into more easily transported planks. Unfortunately, they are also favourite places for Bekarfen's criminal gangs to dispose of people who have crossed them. So that's not something you want to think too much about. Currently, Bekarfen is austere because of Chancellor Hertwig's call to arms, and the army's march to Eisenstahl. Left under the command of his youngest brother, Matthias, the town is restive for fear that a Chaos army might march south out of Kislev to cross the Talabek and lay siege. Agitators argue that there are spies amongst the Kislevites in the city, and the town watch has already had to intervene to prevent lynchings. If Crom does not appear soon, the turmoil at home may force the Chancellor to return. So that's a bit rubbish, isn't it? They're all sort of too scared of, these sort of outward threats that they're sort of ruining it for themselves. But then it's Warhammer, so for all we know, there's loads of spies, and, chaos cults, and loads of horrible things happening, because that's Warhammer for you. So next we have Essen. The other town that's in Warhammer Total War. An isolated town along the North Ster, Essen sits in an unenviable place between the portion of the Great Forest known as the Deadwood on the west, the Eerie Downs on the east, and the Hell Fen across the river to the south. Under the rule of the Margrave Gotthold Schurz, Essen has the reputation as the most haunted village in the Empire. Tavern tales say that ghosts are as common on the streets as people, that zombies till the fields, and Sylvanian vampires hunt openly in Essen. Though these are vast exaggerations of the actual situation, there is no doubt that Essen has been threatened in the past by the restless dead. And that doesn't surprise me one bit. Not a fun place to be, right next to Sylvania. It's, I guess, why the Moot and Stirland are always so up in arms. So next we have Fortenhof, which isn't in Total War Warhammer. But then I'm not sure it would be because it's only got a population of 96, apparently. So that's novel. So, an isolated outpost in the northeast of the province, Fortenhof is important for its ferry, the largest over the upper Talabek outside of Bekarfen itself, ruled by the Margrave Conrad Roentgen. Fortenhof's fortress is an impressive point for defending Ostermark against invasion, while it also ensures that the proper revenues are collected from any cross-border traffic. Even before the war, Fortenhof was the most Kislevite of Ostermark's towns. Intermarriage across the border is common, and families often cross each way to visit relatives or do business. The chief priest of Tal and Raya in Fortenhof, Sergei Maximov, is himself from Kislev. Since the war, however, refugees fleeing the fighting have put a strain on resources in the northeast. Many have crossed illegally, looking for land and safety in the Empire. Unlicensed villages have been found at the edges of the Veldt, and the horse breeders of that area are fearful that Kislevite farmers will begin fencing off and tilling their invaluable grasslands. They have brought their complaints to the Margrave Roentgen, who is considering either taking the matter to Chancellor Hertwig or declaring an emergency and evicting the squatters himself. And last off we have Heffingen. Dead in the centre of Ostermark, Heffingen is ruled by Margrave Richard Dornier, one of the largest breeders of horses in the province. Situated on the edge of the bleak moors, Heffingen looks towards the Veldt for its wealth, with the village services dedicated mostly to the summer horse market, which attracts buyers from as far away as Astalia. And that is a long way to go for Astalia. You'd have to go, I guess, around to Marienburg, and then all the way up the River Reich, and then up the River Talabek. That's a long way to go. So that's quite impressive.
Into battle.
Or a hell of a walk. Anyway. Margrave Dornier resents the political dominance Fortenhof exerts over the Veldt, which he sees as an archaic holdover that does not reflect economic reality. Currently away with the army, Margrave Dornier is using the opportunity to convince the Chancellor to give authority over the Veldt and its equine wealth to Heffingen. So that almost does it for Ostermark, actually, but I am going to go over some little quotes that they have in here as well by, sort of people's opinions of the place. So, from Chancellor Hertwig, the elect Count of Ostermark, the man himself, his little quote here is, "Ostermark is like a miniature of the Empire, a league of free and independent towns relying on each other for mutual security. We have to. No one else in the Empire cares a fig about us." That's a bit sad, isn't it? Anyway, next off we have Captain Schultz, who says, "Those Ostermark women, they know widowing alright. Wish I had a wife that'd grieve like that for me." So yeah, sort of has that sort of morbid, thing about Ostermark. Sums that up nicely. Next off, we have an Altdorf professor, unnamed. He says, "Ostermark is indeed fertile ground for research. There are many ruins and other remnants of past ages there, including dread Mordheim. We'll do our field work elsewhere." I'd imagine so. And last off, a Middenheimer says, "Stuck next to Kislev and Sylvania. A dreary land of fog and rain at the best of days. Why does anyone want to live there?" So yeah, Ostermark doesn't have the best sort of reputation. No one really likes it. Honestly, they all think it's really horrible. But it's probably less horrible than Kislev. It's certainly less cold and slightly less attacked. But then it's really close to Sylvania. And actually, if I look at the sort of gazetteer that they have here, it's only about 10,000 people living in the entire province, if these figures are anything to go by. There's only 7,600 people living in Bekafen, and the rest of the places, barely 1,000 for all of them. Heffingen, 95 people there. Negenhof, which we didn't mention, is 850. Essen only has 88 people living there, apparently. It's a bit crazy. Tiny place. Is Oslo. I mean, it's massive in terms of land, but in terms of population, it's very little. But then a lot of them don't live in towns or cities. They're out, with their ranches and stuff. So sort of get families spread out all over the place, which is pretty rare, I think, for a Warhammer sort of nation, because nothing's safe. You're better off behind walls. But yeah, I guess with all their horses, they could outrun anything, that might try and eat them. So that's fun. And so to finally sum up the sort of colourful language that they use, as well as the sort of horrible, morbid fascination with death, the sort of death fixation. They have some sayings, and I'd like to tell you those too. So sliced him from withers to brisket. It nearly chopped him in half. Withers to brisket. I'd love to know which part is the withers and which part is the brisket. But still. Also, they might call a widow a crow wife, which seems a bit odd, but the crow is the sign of Mor, so I guess that's not too unusual. Mor being the, god of death. And speaking of Mor, they might also say upon Mor's plate, which means on the battlefield. So, again, that seems a bit creepy to think the god of death is just there, having a banquet, while everyone's dying in battle. So again, it's sort of this morbid thing, sort of morbid sense of humour, I find. So also another thing that they might say is about widows. She's wed at night, which means she's a widow. From the belief that Mor allows diligent widows to meet their husbands in dreams. So that's quite sweet, I think, in a way. Also, they have a fun little little name. It's planker, and if you call something a planker, you might be referring to a corpse you found in a river. So yeah, really sort of morbid fascination with death. They're quite peculiar people. But then I guess they're so used to death, it's surrounding them. So kind of sucks to be in Ostermark, really. But at least they got their horses, so that's something. And their barges, so they can sail away. I don't know why they don't. But then I guess they got Carrot Catherine to look out for them a little bit, you know. And having the Slayer King on side, that's gotta be useful. But guys, so obviously I've gone, you know, I've added all the little bits here and there, you know, all the sort of extra notes, and sayings and whatnot, which I don't always go into when I'm talking about them. But as you can see, I'm trying to pad out time a little bit because we've almost finished now. This was indeed the last battle of the campaign, so we're actually about to see this victory screen. Look at that! After all this time. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what to do now. Do you want me to play some nice music? What should I do? Do I just talk? My god, look how little my empire used to be. Is that so cute? Although, 5 turns to unite the empire, that's pretty good going, I think. I think I did well there. So, yeah, but then it's on easy mode, isn't it? So, it's not that difficult. Is it on easy mode or medium? Can any of you guys remember what I said at the very first episode? Because I didn't keep it on a high difficulty, because I didn't want any surprises, because, you know, I wanted to be able to talk about the lore. I didn't want, you know, people reconquering their land to get in the way of me talking about stuff. Because you guys do know I love the sound of my own voice. So, you know, it goes without saying. So you can see here, yeah, I turned 15, had Marienburg. I vassalized Marienburg so they could stay in Gorsel, which actually is a great tactic in campaign, because guarding the north from Norska is just tedious later on. I mean, Gorsel won't get you the income to, you know, pay for an entire army, but you basically need to keep an army there full time, unless you actually go on the offensive and destroy Norska. But I'd rather my allies did that, to be honest. I find that works out a lot better. So I did confederate I confederated with Wissenland as well, so I got that whole territory, which was really good. So I had Nuln, which is great. So I had the forges there, you know, with the Imperial School of Gunnery, and of course the University of Nuln, which is very cool. Unfortunately, you can't build those. Well, you get the Gunnery School, don't you? So obviously, you know, it's Emanuel von Leibowitz that's you know, ruling over Nuln and trying to get rid of Wissenland. But I guess I took it out of her hands by taking all of it. So, so that's a bit different. I hate that Emanuel von Leibowitz is not in here. She really should be. But, oh well. So, next off, I believe I take possibly Stirland, maybe Kemperbad. Actually, I think I take the lot, don't I? Confederate Stirland, who has Kemperbad for some reason. I think with Kemperbad, though, it's actually supposed to be a province in the Reichland. It's supposed to be a town in the Reichland. It's not supposed to be in Talabecland, which I find odd. But then there's nothing really in Talabecland, apart from Talabheim. Because, you know, it's all forest, and it's full of beastmen and crazy. So, it makes sense, I guess, for Talabheim to be safe, because they're on the river. So, you know, they can get food from wherever they want, you know, through trade, and they're protected by the mountains, aren't they? They're in that massive crater. So that's pretty cool. Stirland, there. Obviously, I've taken that now. Well, confederated with them. So, I've got the Moots, I've got the Halflings on my side, which is great. Gotta love the Halflings. And also Stirland and their poor people. As they're known for, famously. But I am a man of my word, and, you know, confederating with Stirland, I am going to take all of their lands back, which actually includes Sylvania, in my opinion. You know, the Elector Count of Stirland, what's his name? Ulbrich Haupt Anderson. You know, actually, I want to go back to his title, because it's great. It's the Elector Count, Ulbrich Haupt Anderson, Grand Count of Stirland, Prince of Wertbad, and Overlord of Sylvania, which sounds very menacing, and Sylvania is obviously a very menacing place. But he's not really in charge of any of it, though he did still send in tax collectors now and then, under, you know, a lot of guards. Not sure the vampire counts appreciated that much, but they don't have a say in it anymore, because I've wiped them out. So that's good. Best get rid of the vampires nice and early. Can't have them, you know, sucking the blood out of my my peasants while I'm trying to fight the hordes of chaos, you know. So, yeah, it's time to tame that place. Obviously, the witch hunters are going to be working overtime, as well as the Knights of Moor, which, you know, has yet to make an appearance, but I would like to see the Knights of Moor. I think that'd be fun. But, yeah, you never know. Some other knights might be in there too. So I sent the Reichsguard in with me. So, and obviously Voltmar the Grim, I think, was heading that that attack, which is great. So, yeah, definitely bringing Sigmar back to the land of the dead there. And that's not the land of the dead in, you know, in the Southlands. That's a different Land of the Dead. I meant it more metaphorically. That's not actually its name, but still, so that's great. So Averland is still sat there on its own. I'm friends with them, so but they didn't want to confederate. I don't think, but that's fine. You know, don't need them to. And oh yeah, it was around this time I decided that I'd declare war against Middenheim, which was very unlaw friendly. It definitely wasn't canon. That's not the sort of thing that Karl Franz would do. But I wanted an excuse to talk about it, and you know, I wanted Middenheim. I got a bit greedy. I'm a greedy elect count, I know. So sorry about that, guys, but it had to happen. So also, you know, I went to war with Nordland as well. When I went to war with Middenheim, you know, they're always close friends. You know, really united in their faith of Ulrich, if you remember, and you know, united against sort of the forces of you know, the Norskins that constantly try and raid and pillage the north. So as well as all the beastmen, because of course, you know, Boris Todbringer has a very well, he has a vendetta against Khazrak the One Eye. Each of them took each other's eyes, which is very interesting. I like that. But they just constantly play this game. They just sort of live for being at war with one another, which I find very cool as a you know, a character thing. They're both sort of, they're lost without one another. It's kind of romantic, isn't it? So so that's fun. So yeah, so continue to conquer. Turn 85 now, and finally take Salisbury there. I believe that was. Was that Salisbury or was Salisbury next door? But yeah, so start taking the north. Did I let Nordland live? I did, didn't I? I did let Nordland live. So so that's novel. I'd forgotten about that. Again, I wanted more of a buffer. And yeah, they'd do anything I asked them to at that point. I'd completely decimated their allies and them. So having another army there that I can send against Norska is fantastic. So then suddenly I managed to get Talabheim on my side. Well, Talabekland, although they only had Talabheim. I managed to get them on side, as well as Hochland and Ostland as well. I'm pretty sure at this point I was military allies with Kislev and Ostermark, as well as Averland. So, you know, I basically had united the Empire at this point. They were either my vassals, or I was military allies with them. But this time I didn't want to let history repeat itself. In this version of you know, the Warhammer world and the, you know, the Storm of Chaos or the End Times or whatever, I didn't want Kislev to fall. So and we all know how that went. So yeah, continue to go on some quests. At this point, I think I had the Archlector. Sorry, not the Archlector. The Grand Theogenist. You know, out there fighting. He had, you know, witch hunters with him and warrior priests. So a real righteous army. Karl Franz had Luther Huss and Volton with him. You know, both sort of heroes of Sigmar there. But also slightly at odds with you know, the actual Church of Sigmar, which is interesting. So I like that sort of righteous heretics almost, which is very interesting. But on side, because obviously, you know, Volton did have that birthmark, so can't be sniffed at. And yeah, finally defeated the Storm of Chaos. I stopped them from destroying Kislev, and I'm really happy about that. And as you can see, my allies destroyed most of Norska. Also, if you guys remember, I had Giovanni Mezzo, the Shadow, you know, Laura Shadows, the Grey Wizard, with Karl Franz, and he is named after a pub. He has a tavern named in Altdorf, and it's rumoured that he's a Grey Wizard. You know, the guy who runs this place. It's a haunt for wizards. Cool place to hang out, you know, and you know, good place to get a meal. So that's fun. So yeah, it's been a good campaign, guys. God, look at all this. It's crazy. Total income, that is nuts. That is crazy money. I don't even know how to say that number. So I had 22 allies by the end. 19 trade agreements. I was a hell of a statesman, guys. I did Karl Franz proud, I think. You know, that's very law-friendly, I think. He's a hell of a statesman, and I wanted to make sure I did him justice. And I think I did fairly well there. So I didn't establish many military forces, but I did have more forces than that. So a lot of them I got from, what's it called? Confederation, I suppose. Had the odd elector count with me. So that's fun. Most concurrent armies, 34. How does that work? Not really sure how I had 34 armies. Does it count your allies' armies that you've commanded? I have no idea. Lords recruited, only 4 apparently. Lords killed, 32. Lost 4 lords though. Units recruited, 132. Units destroyed, 494. Only lost 28 units myself. Total battles fought, 54 battles. Fought 47 of them personally. And let's see, victories, 53 out of 54. If you remember, that loss was actually my grand victory over the forces of chaos. I know, why is it saying it's a loss? It's because I retreated, remember? I did a tactical retreat, which allowed me to then have Karl Franz mop up the rest of the forces of chaos. So it's a shame it's recorded as a defeat, seeing as how I decided to lose intentionally. To get the upper hand once I devastated all their armies, rather than trying to slug it out till the end. So that's a pity. So yeah, short campaign complete. Is that all? Nope. Glory to you, glory to us. The war will go ever on, for that is the nature of this turbulent world. And that's the Warriors of Chaos destroyed, which is brilliant. It's a good feeling, guys. And sort of anti-heroes, because, you know, Kurt Hellborg needs a new sword. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to have a rune fang, though, isn't he? So, that's no good. And, yeah, so here's the map. You can see the north completely wasted. Got all the Empire united. Not all under my flag, but, you know, they're all friends of mine. The dwarfs, they destroyed the greenskins for me, which is why I got the long campaign. So, I'm glad my allies did well. For once, the Wood Elves actually stayed where they belong, in Athel Loren. They didn't take over half of Bretonnia. So again, it was a law-friendly result there, which is great. Although, actually, that's not very law-friendly, is it? Kislev seemed to own all of Ostland. Not Ostland, Ostermark, which they really shouldn't. But I guess I'll forgive them. Yeah, there's Karl Franz there. Pretty sure he's on level 30 by the end, wasn't he? So look at all those trade partners. All those military allies. It's the whole world united. And I'm amazed, actually. Zufbar, Karak Hern, Karak Norn, they all survived. And Clan Angrand, yeah, absolutely crazy. Barak Var, although it's not that crazy, because I turned off AI confederations with a mod. So that's why the dwarfs don't own everything. And to be honest, I prefer it like this, with a lot of smaller factions, you know. It makes it easier, but it makes it more law-friendly. And the Empire is the Empire, you know. So it makes sense that I have all of it, and the rest are, you know, separate holds. So I really enjoyed this campaign, guys. I really did. I can't, yeah, I can't stress that enough. I can't wait to do some more, in future. Oh, it's going to be good. It's been an emotional journey, guys. It really has. So yeah, I will be continuing this series, despite the lack of campaign, because there are some other topics that I want to continue. But that's it for the campaign. So yeah, guys, let me know what you thought. Please do. It'd be good to know what I can do better. I know I was neglecting some of the cinematic shots later on, in favour of just sort of getting the battles done. So yeah, I'll probably try and do more cinematic stuff in future, because I know I did that in the earlier ones, but then the earlier battles are always, super easy, so it's not really a problem. So yeah, so guys, yeah, here I am saying thanks for watching. I recorded this quite some time ago now. It's well before the Norska patch, well, the Norska DLC. So thanks for watching, guys. So yeah, please do comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought. Anything you want me to do in the next lot, yeah, let me know. Now is the time to tell me before I start the next campaign, and and I can make that better for all of you. And yeah, I just don't know what else to say. It seems like such an anticlimactic finish, just looking at a load of statistics. But it's been a long journey. And yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please do comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next campaign. Have a good day, guys.